So, a teacher was traveling in Africa. She was volunteering with the Peace Corps, and she was helping an older gentleman in the village. And near the end of the time, he came to her with a shell, with a beautiful seashell, and he gave it to her. And she was very impressed by this beautiful shell, and she thanked him for it. And she said, "Where on earth did you get this shell? It's so beautiful. And your village is 30 miles from the coast. Did a trader bring it?" And he said, No. I walked to the town by the coast and got it." And she was very impressed with this because she knew there was no transportation in this village, that it was by foot. And she realized in thinking about it that he walked 30 miles there and 30 back. He walked 60 miles for this. And she commented on that. She said, "You went 60 miles to retrieve this shell." And he said, "Yes, the long walk is part of the gift." The long walk is part of the gift. And what a beautiful remembrance that is, that all of our efforts to achieving our dreams, our goals, is part of the harvest. It's part of the gift that we receive, isn't it? The efforts that we put in along the way is part of that gift. And harvest time is what we're talking about today as we wrap up our series that we've been doing all month on Mary Morrissey's beautiful book, Building Your Field of Dreams. And we've been looking at the whole process of the dream building, her dream building process that she has. And again, we're at that harvest point now, and we know that anytime we have a planting, and this time of year, anybody from the south, you know zucchini, it kind of multiplies and multiplies, and it just shows up on your porch in boxes and boxes and boxes, because your neighbors are so generous with it because they don't know what to do with it. So harvest time can be a fun time for us. But if you've noticed as we've been going through this series this month that it is a process, and Mary talks about how we clear the field first, right? We had to prepare the field. And then we had to choose the dream. We had to choose the seed. And then we nourished it. And then we nourished it. And now we're actually at that harvesting time. But sometimes in the process, we allow ourselves to get derailed, detoured, short-circuited, don't we? And usually it's some fear that's come up, isn't it? Usually it's some fear or some unexpected surprise. To use the farming example, maybe bad weather comes in and impacts our crop a little bit. But in looking at the idea of following the process, the most recent example that comes to mind for me personally is the co-creation process that we went through with Dr. Kathy Hearn a couple of weeks ago, and how that process that worked me. And some others in the room also, I know, had their own experience of it for different reasons. But for me, I kept having to remind myself, trust this process. Trust this process. Stay with the process. This is a proven program. It has worked for many people for many years. Hang in there. Stop fighting it. Stop trying to dig up the seed, right? Stop trying to dig up the seed. But I stayed with it. I stayed with the process, and out of it came some wonderful intentions for our community. Wonderful intentions for our community that emerged as the creative process of Spirit through each and every one of us in that room. And it was also great personal growth for me to walk through that and to have those 12 or 13, 15 hours, whatever it was, of processing time to be with myself, to be with my thoughts, to see what came up, to see what beliefs I needed to heal within myself. So it was really a fascinating time. But the gifts that I harvest by staying with that were much more abundant and much more sweet than had I jumped in and said no, and resisted it, right? Yeah. But sometimes we need to just open to the possibility, don't we? We need to open to the possibility of our dream. We might have a dream and go, yeah, I dream of living on the beach and whatever. But do we believe it's really possible? Do we believe it's really possible that that's going to happen for us? And if we don't, we've got to disconnect, don't we? We've got to disconnect around that. And sometimes that's where the deep work is, because we've got some beliefs maybe in there that are not serving the manifestation of that dream. And that's where our deep work lies. But sometimes we're not willing to do that, are we? Or sometimes we're not ready to do it. We're just not ready. The time is not right to do that deeper work. When I decided that I was ready for a relationship in my life, I had to open up to the possibility of it even happening and what that would look like for me. How would my life be? How would it change? Could I accept that? Was I willing? I had to project myself into a future of what would that look like? Who would I be? How would I show up? So there's a little bit of imagination that we've got to use in this dream building process to who do I become when I step into the manifestation of this dream? How does my life change? If I'm a writer and I'm trying to write something, how does my life change when I truly dedicate time to writing every day? If I'm an artist and I'm going to create something new in my life, how does my life change if I truly step into what it takes to do that? If I'm creating a new career, a new relationship, more financial abundance, whatever it might be, how does my life change? How do I put on the garb of that dream that I'm holding, that I embody it? Ernest Holmes' wonderful word, it embody this. It means we become it, doesn't it? We hear that a lot. We must first become that which we seek. And it's kind of a cliche, but that's really what it means, is that we have to step into the believing of it, the owning of it, before we can step into the process of receiving it. So I had some rearranging of my own personal beliefs that I realized I needed to do. I had some baggage I needed to unpack and put away some old suitcases, right? But once I did that, the manifestation could occur. The manifestation could occur. And the same can happen for you too, that once we can clear the channel within ourselves of our beliefs and our desire, and we can embody the desire that we have, it cannot help but manifest through us, right? It cannot help but manifest through us. In speaking, they encourage us to go to the facility in advance, to not walk into a room cold and be surprised by what you find. And I had a little bit of that experience when I spoke in Tucson many years ago. It was a theater, a real theater, with really, really high ceilings and a big, ginormous theater stage that was up high and had a little music stand in the middle of it. A lot of real estate on that stage. And then the band was way over there, and the altar was way back here, and the people were way down there. It was a different experience for me. So I had to become acclimated to that. I had to put it on. I had to get comfortable with that experience rather than just walking in there cold and trying to connect with an audience that wasn't quite as intimate as I was used to speaking in front of. So the same thing happens with our dreams, right? We have to embody that dream. So what beliefs do you have that might need a little rearranging? What baggage needs to get unpacked? What suitcases need to be put away in order for the dream that you're holding to be manifest through you? And we talk about the sweet fruits of the harvest. What does that mean to savor the sweet fruits of the harvest? Well, I've shared before in the real estate company that we would get so busy with the project and it would be closing or whatever the occurrence was happening, but we'd be moving on to the next one before that happened. And we're in that beginning stages of the new one and that exciting, creative piece of it where everybody's co-creating with each other. And we would forget to celebrate the thing we just completed. So we got a cowbell. I work for farmers and cowboys. We got a cowboy. I mean, a cowboy. I got one over here. Anyway, okay, cowbell. And every time it rings, every time something good happens, somebody will ring the bell, and everybody comes out of their offices, and it's like, what's the good news, right? We're like Pavlov's dog. The bell rings, and we all come out expecting the treat. What's the good that's happened? Now, it's a silly little way, but it's a silly little way that we all come together in celebration of whatever the good is that may have happened in our office community there. So how do you celebrate the fruit of your harvest? The big and the small. You know, if you've got a program of health and fitness and you get up and you make it to the gym, you deserve a celebration, right? You got up, you got out the door, you got in the gym. Yay! If I get to work on time, yay! I get a cup of coffee, right? There's a little celebration along the way as we achieve our stepping stones to our vision. Because there's stepping stones on the path, aren't there? It's not point A to point B and we're just there. There's always a process. There's that process, the steps on the journey. So if you're not celebrating your wins in your life, big and small, maybe you should look at that. Maybe you should look at adding a little more life and celebration in your life. I'm always reminded of the Romancing the Stone movie. Remember that from 100 years ago? And when Jane Wilder finished her novel, she always celebrated with those little airplane bottles and just toasted her cat and did all sorts of funny things. But it's that sort of pause to acknowledge what we've accomplished. Pause to acknowledge what we've accomplished. Because sometimes we're so focused on that end goal that we miss the beauty, we miss the joy of the journey that we're experiencing. We might even miss a miracle. We might even miss a miracle. Now, I know in Science of Mind, some people are resistant to the word miracle. It's like, no, there's no such thing. It's all just expected. Well, that's what a miracle really is, though, isn't it? For me, it's a place of the miraculous, where Spirit is operating through me, as me. It's the place beyond my limited imagination. That is the miraculous to me. It's what's beyond my limited imagination. I mean, there are scientific discoveries that I find miraculous because it's well beyond my imagination when I see and read about some of the things that are happening and available to us today. So one of the ideas that Mary shares in her book is that we reserve a miracle zone in our minds. Reserve a miracle zone in our minds. And she calls this place a place where no disbelief can taint or color or destroy your faith. Imagine a little place in your mind that is completely protected from any negativity, anything that's going to tell you you can't achieve your dream. She goes on to say, it's a little reserve that says, I don't know how my dream will happen, but I believe it can happen. I believe that the power of this universe is greater than any problem I face. Well, there you go. I believe in the power of the universe is greater than any problem that I can face. Our doubt seems pretty small when compared to the power of the universe, doesn't it? When we can step into and realize we are supported by that loving universe at all times. The dictionary says a miracle is a surprising and welcome event that is not explainable by natural or scientific laws and is considered to be the work of a divine agency. I say, heck yeah. I'll take some of that, right? Spirit operates through us. We teach that. So why wouldn't we have miracles along our journey? So create that miracle zone in your mind and expect the surprising and the welcome into your life. Expect the surprising and the welcome. I'm using a lot of movies today. Do you remember the movie Mr. Holland's Opus? Remember that? Delightful little movie. Richard Dreyfuss was in it. And he was always writing the Great American Symphony, wasn't he? But he took this temporary job as a high school band teacher that lasted decades. He never got his opus written. And as he's walking out the last day into retirement, he goes into the auditorium where it's packed with his current and past students. He had been teaching since the 60s, and I think this was done in the 80s, so he had 20 years of students in the room. And as they're acknowledging him for his service, the governor walks in. She was one of his students in high school. And she spoke to the group and she addressed them and she said, Mr. Holland, you've always been talking about writing the Great American Symphony. And she said, you've written it. Look around this room in the faces of these people. These are the notes the lives of these people and the impact that you've had on them are the notes of your symphony. You have written a great symphony, and it's all around you right here, right now, because of the impact that he had had on each of those students' lives. If you remember the movie, he was very much involved with the students' lives and forming them as young adults, in addition to teaching them music. So it's a very sweet story, but it reminds us that life is what happens on our journey to our dreams. Life is what happens on the journey to our dreams. The dream is out here, right? That's the incentive, if you will. But every step of the way is our life, in the moment, in the present. The things that build us. And if we go back and we think about John McCain a little bit, he came up, and as I was looking at this morning, that his life was not point A to point B, but we can look back over his life of service and see the journey that he took and each and every step and the things that he did. And I think, while there was a disagreement, he was beloved on both sides of the aisle, and bipartisanship was really something that I think he was focusing on. I think it was something he was focusing on. He recognized the truth of that. So his life speaks, doesn't it? His life speaks. So I think that our dreams that we individually have are God's impulses through us. Why else would we have a dream, a desire, a longing, a wanting? And it's individual for each one of us, isn't it? We may want something in the same category, but the individualization of that through each of us is unique, isn't it? It's unique. So I think that is Spirit expressing through us to continue that upward evolution of our soul's journey. But when we can step through the fear and go confidently in the direction of our dreams, like Thoreau said, when we can do that, we embark on a journey of discovery of self with a capital S. Discovery of self with a capital S. And we experience that co-creation with the divine, with the creator of all that is. We experience that co-creation. And then we begin to believe in the impossible. Or as I like to say, the I'm possible. The I'm possible. And when that begins to happen, we become what Mary calls impact people. We become impact people. Examples to others of what's possible in their lives as well. Right? We become examples to others. Mary says the greatest impact comes not from achieving your dream, but from awakening to the person you become as you step into it. Isn't that beautiful? I think that really summarizes the book. The greatest impact comes not from achieving the individual dream, but from awakening to the person that you become as you step into it, as you embody it. Who do I be now that I have achieved this thing? And I think this is the basis of the science of mind teaching, isn't it? It's a path to awakening our soul to a higher realization of the truth of life. Ernest Holmes, the author of the Science of Mind text that we teach from and the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living, he tells us in the text, God's creative power of mind is right here. It's right here. We have as much of this power to use as we believe in and embody. The storehouse of nature is filled with infinite good, awaiting the touch of our awakened thought to spring forth into manifestation in our lives. But the awakening must be within our own thought. The awakening must be within our own thought. The word that we speak is the law of our lives, and nothing hinders its operation but ourselves. In the way, when we can be the way. So I think this is all a really good summation of that book, of our work this month, of the process of dream building and moving us from the cleared field all the way into our harvest time, that it is about awakening, isn't it? Because if you think about planting of a seed, and the seed is in the shell and it bursts forth and the sprouts come up, and it's awakening, isn't it? To bring forth its fruits. And that's what we do here also. We are awakening ourselves to a higher realization of who and what we are. But we may face turmoil. struggle, suffering even on our path to dream building. Because it's usually not a straight shot, is it? They say if it's too easy, it's not really, what is that saying? If your dream is big enough, it scares you to death. That's the other side of it. Yeah, if it's only big enough if it scares you. And, I think that's how we know that it's really true, because it's pushing us, isn't it? It's pulling us forward. It's pushing us, and then it begins to pull us. And when your dream begins to pull, that's when we know. That's what happened here. I was feeling pushed, and then I got pulled. But it is the awakening to our greater yet to be. That's the whole process. So let's step into our practicing the principles and see what we can take home with us this week. Number 1 is trust the process. We live in an orderly and ordered system, don't we? We see it all around us. It has to be. There's too many unique individuals of us bouncing around that we have to be in an orderly and ordered system in order for us all to work, for the planets not to spin out and whatever. We're in an orderly and ordered system. Everything is created in the perfect right time in the universe. Now, we may disagree with that. It's not fast enough, it's too fast. But everything is created in its perfect and divine right time in the universe. But sometimes we just need to kind of chill out a little, don't we? And relax and allow space for spirit to work in our lives. Like we talked last week, our perspective sometimes is the size of a phone booth. Spirit is up on the mountaintop with the big vista and the infinite possibilities. But we get a little crazy in our phone booth sometimes, and we can't see the bigger picture, the bigger realization, the bigger truth of life through us. Number 2, savor the fruits of your dreams. Celebrate. Celebrate. A natural part of any celebration seems to be gratitude, doesn't it? Yeah, seems to be gratitude. And we can use a gratitude practice to support us in that, can't we? We can use a journal, a gratitude journal, or some other method of recognizing and acknowledging the gratitude and the celebration of the wins, the small and the large ones. Focus on celebrating every good thing, because we know what? What we focus on expands. There'll be more to celebrate. Number 3, recognize your dream is always building you. And I love that also. What if our dreams are given to us for the sole purpose of our evolution in consciousness? That's the only reason we have dreams and desires and seeking something greater than what we are in this moment, is our soul's journey of expanding our own awareness, our own awakening. It's like Mark's song. What would we do? What would we do? Remember our African friend with the shell. The long walk is part of the gift. The long walk is part of the gift. So Mary tells us that the dreams we build on earth are temporary, but the transformation of our soul is eternal. The gift once given is remembered. She says the field is ready, the seed is good, your life is willing. Plant, my friend, your harvest is insured. So I invite you to join me in the intention as we plant these intentions for Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living. We've talked about our co-creation process and that we had 6 intentions that emerged through us in that co-creation process. And we are going to invite you to participate with us in what's next for this community. Because you are the community, right? We're all part of this community. And the 6 intentions that we have, I am growing in sustainable ways. I have a handout for you. I am informing, inviting, educating, and empowering. I am exercising effective visitor and congregant retention. I am cultivating a culture of fellowship and participation. I am creating an exceptional live music ministry. I am being fully supported and abundantly prospered in the fulfillment of these intentions. so it is. So I'm going to invite our ushers to hand out that for you. This is the realization statement of an affirmative prayer that is a part of the co-creation process. And I would invite you to daily, for the next 30 days, join your board of trustees, your practitioners and ministers, and the 12 participants that represented you in the co-creation process. And that you join us in repeating this prayer at least one time a day for the next 30 days as community. For we know what we focus on manifests in our lives. If you are interested in a more active role in this center, you can plan to join us on the second Wednesdays of each month beginning in September. The second Wednesdays of each month beginning in September from 6:45 to 8:45. It will be our Wednesday night light, and it's going to be a delving into deeper discussion and perhaps even the how portion of each one of these intentions. We're going to take one per month and do the work around that. So everyone is invited to come and participate in that, and we ask for your commitment and consciousness to be a part of that team if that's something that you're feeling called to do. So look forward to seeing you there second Wednesday of each month beginning in September. So we've readied our field. Our seeds of intention are good. I'm willing, and I believe that you also are willing. So let's plant together these intentions for our community and awaken it and us to our greater yet to be. I wish you peace and blessings, and I thank you for being with us today. And if you're with us for the first time, please see the folks at the first-time visitor table on your way out. They would love to have a little more dialogue with you, and I think they have another present for you, so you might want to stop by there. Thank you again for being with us, and would you join me in an affirmative prayer this morning? How good it is that we come together in the one, recognizing that there is an infinite power in this universe that is order and orderly, and that we live within this system that is always supporting us, that is always love, for it is infinite love, and that's all it is. It is God, it is source, it is presence, it is essence, it is whatever name we call it, but it can never be described by our human words. It is that which is the all that there is. And all of it is here now present, in, through, and as me, in, through, and as each one of us in this room, as expressions of it, individualized and unique, as we allow it to powerfully move through our lives and express as who and what we are. And so from this knowing, from this connection, from this wholeness, I speak my word for and about each one of us, knowing and accepting for us this day the bountiful harvest of our dreams, those seeds which we have been planting actually all year. We began planting in January with our intentions that we set for ourselves, for our community moving forward in this year. And we have new intentions that we are now also planting into this fertile soil of universal mind, knowing that that which we focus on grows and expands in our lives. We know that these seeds are good seeds and that they are nurtured well by this community with love and with joy and with connection. A sprinkling of harmony. And we watch this community continue to grow and to expand, to be of service not only to those of us in this room, but to those within the sound of my voice, to those who are coming forward, to those who don't even know about us yet, but will soon. I also lift up into the word this morning anything that anyone may have on their heart they need a healing or a revelation or clarity, knowing that that is brought forward immediately in this time-space reality. So it is the grateful heart, filled with joy and just thanksgiving for this bountiful harvest that we have experienced this month. As I release this into the activity of law, into the action of mind, we know that it is done, it is complete, and we affirm together by saying, and so it is.